2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to again another edition of my co-star Skyline, and a very special guest today. She goes by a songstress on Twitter. So today we have a very special show planned. We always like to start the stream with, some celebrations or anything to announce. Obviously, I'd like to begin by celebrating, our friendship with a songstress. Ladies, do we have anything to celebrate today?
Oh,
I'm working on the automatic.
Okay.
thing to celebrate.
Is that worth celebrating?
Of course it is.
Celebrate. Oh yeah, one of my best friends just had a baby yesterday.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
That is very exciting. Well, congratulations to your friend. It's for a nice, healthy baby brought into the world. That's always exciting.
Very healthy, very good. It's very weird to be old enough that people I know are having babies.
I know.
Getting married, having baby. I feel like tons of people I know are having babies in the next month or two, and it's very oh, is that what age we are? That's kind of weird.
You know what? I feel that.
I'm at that level.
both of my high school girlfriends, we've maintained contact, obviously after high school. One, I was in the bridal party for, and then the other one, she eloped because of COVID, unfortunately. And to know that I'm the aunt, to both their little girls, that's just, it's like, when did that happen? Last minute I knew, we were geeking out over shit, in a classroom. And now here I am holding both their daughters. I'm like, how is this even a thing?
I know, it's so surreal. I'll be this baby's aunt because, this girl's one of my best friends, so it's very gonna know who I am.
Yup.
Being upon my arms.
It is. I'm probably gonna meet my nephew Dean, probably in the next few months. I didn't get a chance to visit him upstate before we left, but my friend Mike and his wife Vicky, they just had their son about maybe a month or so ago. And yeah, it's just unreal to know that that's
so great.
Isn't it? I mean, don't get me wrong, it's amazing to watch these kids grow, but at the same time, it's like, I know I'm repeating myself, but it's like,
I'm old enough to be watching a kid grow that's not a cousin or, someone in my family, where it makes sense that there are, other babies happening. It's like, oh no, this is my friend's child.
Right? That's exactly it.
You took the word I've known since I was basically a child.
Yup. You took the words right out of my mouth. Honestly, that's exactly.
But we were just babies.
Yup. Exactly.
Aggressively nodding.
So yes, now that we've celebrated the little beans in the world, let's talk about the Hazbeans, shall we? Songstress, I would love to open up the floor and ask, tell us how what lured you into the world of Hazbin?
So I got into Hazbin a little later than a lot of people. I didn't watch it right when the pilot debuted, and I didn't really know anything about it prior to the pilot debuting. Really wasn't into. I didn't know really anything about Vivzie's work. And so I had just started, a friend of mine had like posted some of the like song previews that they had put up on YouTube before the pilot dropped, and like I hadn't really like interacted with them much, but I'd like kind of seen them. And then I want to say it was, I always say it's February, but I'm pretty sure it's late January. I sat down and like actually watched it. Um and then was immediately obsessed with it and watched it like 3 more times that night, and then made everybody I know sit down and watch it with me, including one of my roommates who absolutely has zero interest in anything uh like that, like not super, like doesn't super love anything that's like dark or like dark humor or like from hell. Like she's just, that's really not her thing. But I still dragged her and I was like, please just watch this with me because I need you to watch it because I need people to understand how obsessed I am with this. And it like very quickly consumed my life from there. It was like I knew nothing about Hazbin and things were normal, and then the next day it was like, oh, I'm obsessed with Hazbin and I will buy everything pertaining to Alistair that has ever existed.
Alistair has his ways to make you buy shit.
Yeah, I think I just kind of saw that the pilot had dropped on was like, oh yeah, I recognize that thing from
Okay, so you saw the pilot on
fandom. I had no idea about Vivzie. I was just like, this seems really cool.
That's always a good start.
Oh no.
Vox returned.
Vox returns. Corrupt the connection.
Oh god. Really? It's me?
Oh, shit.
Oh great. Okay.
Do we need to save her?
I hope everyone could still hear the stream. This happened last night in our pre-stream.
Yeah, I think. Hold on, I think Nami's listening in.
Nami.
Alright, you guys really can't hear me?
Vox return.
Oh, like in a picture. I need to just hit.
I mean, there's legitimately nothing I can do about this connection. Alright, you guys still
clearer?
Clearer now? I mean, this is the worst part about having a communal internet service. I have literally no... What?
Oh my god, it does sound like there's a demon possession happening.
Awesome. Awesome.
Oh, I heard that.
Well, here's the deal. I can hear you. Huh?
I think we can hear you again now.
Okay. If this is to happen again, it looks like... So what I'm going to have to do is I will do what I can. I'm probably going to have to back out occasionally. But you guys, please feel free to continue on. Because it looks like it's still going. But I'm still getting this message from YouTube saying it's not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. And I'm not going to know what this sounds like until we're finished.
Got it.
So, yeah, no, I'm so sorry this happened with you. This started happening last week as well with Batsy, and I felt terrible. So...
Okay.
All right.
We have someone to blame now.
Oh, it absolutely is Vox. I mean, Valentino probably heard of my existence, and I mean, probably sent Vox after me, so would not be shocked.
Harper's trying to do a stream and talk about shit, so he's like, go stop her.
Probably.
Highly likely.
Yes, highly likely. But okay. So until this happens again, I'm gonna say let's... Okay.
Yeah, there's like a huge amount of pin making talent in, I mean, there's a huge amount of talent, period, in the Hazbin fandom, but there's a huge amount of talent in pin making specifically, and I feel like I've never seen a fandom that like is this active in making pins constantly, which is so cool because I am obsessed with pins and have been since long before I started making them.
Exactly inspired you to do the poster set that you've done recently.
The most recent set that I did just got released on Friday, I think. Yeah,
Nice.
and yeah, so they're up for pre-order now. And it's a Hazbin patisserie set. So it's like melty cupcakes. Um, and
Fucking cute.
then a pastel like gore cutesy guro set. Um, so slightly different from my previous ones, was a little more dark in colorway and in theme, and then these are a little more cutesy. Um, so yeah, I really I like pastels and cutesy stuff. I don't tend to like dress that way or make a lot of art that is that way, but I really, really love it. And I know that it's really popular in Hazbin fandom too. So I wanted to do a set that was more like cutesy, rather than my previous things.
Ah, okay. So what you're essentially saying is Charlie's took possession of you for that set.
Yeah, yeah. Like I really wanted to do something with Charlie, which I hadn't done yet, and I really wanted to do something with Angel Dust. Like Angel Dust's aesthetic, I know is super popular in the fandom, and I really like it too. Like it's very cute, and so I wanted to do something based around that. And also just expand the cast of characters that I did pins for, because up until now it's just been Alistair pin merch.
The best boy.
The best boy. And honestly, I could probably just only do Alistair pin merch forever, and that would be fine. But I have had a couple of people messaging me on Twitter and Etsy being like, "Will you ever do other characters?" And I was like, I'm so sorry."
Never
We're noticing a bit
apologize.
of a pattern here, so
Yeah. Me and Batsy both are huge Alistair Sims, and 90% of what we do is just draw Alistair. So
no
I
faults.
am
Well, I'm in that
trying.
boat, so
Yeah, I am trying to do other characters and other pins, and I want to eventually get into ship pins at some point. But the next set that I'm working on is like a creepy, dark carnival circus theme, and that
ooh,
one, yeah, probably mostly just be Alistair. Although I think I'm gonna do the Angel Carousel as the pin as well.
Oh, that sounds nice.
neat. But at the same time, I'm also like Fizby in this.
Mhm.
But you know what, though?
Really
I
have
mean,
the scary giant boy.
then again, you're talking to the
What was
angel
that?
dust.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, I was just saying you're talking to the angel dust simp, so I'm gonna want anything angel dust.
Yeah, I know he's so popular, and I was really scared to try and start drawing him. The out of the current sets, the Guro Angel Dust pin, which is actually one of my favorites that I've made so far. That's actually the first time I've drawn Angel Dust. Period. I'm very intimidated by the amount of arms that are happening at any time. Um, and so every time I go to draw him, I'm just like, well, what am I gonna do with all the arms?
A little tip from me to you: if you're gonna do anything with his second pair of arms, just have him behind its back. Have him behind his back. It makes it so much easier.
God, it's so like I've never I so I had a so I used to draw a lot. I drew most of my childhood all the way through high school. Like all the time. And for a long time I thought I wanted to be an animator like at Disney or something, and then I actually started trying to play around with animation, and I was like, no, no, no. I don't think this is for me. It's
Ah, no,
just
sorry.
yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
no.
Yeah, and that's okay. Like it's not for everybody, and like as I started to get into it, I was like, no, I actually think that this would drive me crazy. So And, then I kind of took a different path in college. I was a music major. So then I kind of just stopped drawing because I didn't really have time. And I hadn't really been drawing until I got back into Hazbin. Hazbin is the reason that I started drawing again, because I was just so obsessed with Alistair and with the aesthetic of the show. And like I mentioned last night, like I had all these ideas and I had all this content that I wanted, and I was like, what do you mean I have to create the content I want to see? Which I know is a huge mood for a lot of fan artists, but that's how I felt. I was like, well, no one's gonna do my random OC and Alistair content, so
Yep.
I guess I have to.
Yep.
Find people that like me and they do a lot.
I don't have a drawing book anymore. Like, there's the one exists in this house, and like, luckily I did have a big one that I had just sort of stashed away in my closet somewhere. And so yeah, I just kind of got back into drawing, and I was drawing Alistair and drawing my OC. Cartoony style was very like, I grew up drawing anime. I feel like most of us, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like most people in Hazbin that I've talked to when they were younger were the type of artists where it's like there was a fork in the road, a turning point in life where you either became an anime artist or a furry artist, and you drew a lot of wolves.
Ouch, I'm targeted.
And I had a lot of friends. Like, I had a lot of friends who like we all kind of grew up together drawing, and like some of us started drawing wolves and like warrior cats really intensely, and some of us started drawing anime, and it was like I was like walking the line very close to going over in each direction, and then I just sort of randomly ended up going towards anime. But like the cartoony style of Hazbin was not something that I was super familiar with, so I have a lot of really terrible drawings in my drawing book of me trying to be like, what the fuck does Alistair look like? Like, how do I draw this man?
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully, like a bunch of artists, and like Ripley, I think, posted like a guide to drawing Alistair, which I have saved because I was like, this is the only thing that makes sense at all. But like, it took me a long time to get into the cartoony style, and now, unfortunately, I feel like I've gone too far. Like Batsy and I have talked about this, where it's like, well, now I feel like I can't figure out how to draw anybody outside of the Hazbin cartoony style and in a style that would be more normal for me. So now I've got to like backtrack. But luckily, like cartoony style works much better for pins. So
No, that's good though.
Those overrated years.
No, but I think you're right about that though. About artists that either go the anime route or the furry route. I mean, I wouldn't know. I went the writing route.
it's another alternative route, yeah. So that's also very valid.
Yeah, I went.
I'ma just do this.
Yeah, I mean, I tried my. You know what it is? I tried my hand at drawing. It did not pan out. It did not pan out. So I draw with words instead. There's my alternative.
Which is amazing, and like, fandom needs both artists and fan fiction writers, and story writers, and like I love writing, and I do a lot of writing too, so I totally get that. And sometimes it's easy. I feel like sometimes it's easier to share writing than art.
I agree with that. I also think that
Aggressively nodding.
you know what it is? I feel that I'm sorry, YouTube sending me another message. The stream's current bit rate is lower than the recommended bit. All right, well, nothing I could do about that. So, I feel like artists themselves tell a story, right? And it's really easy to take that image and transform that into words. And I mean, vice versa, absolutely vice versa. Because Sky and I think we've done that in tandem, which I think is, phenomenal. I think the first time, what I do for you, some radio dust, ish.
You wrote a radio dust thing, and then I was like, I'm gonna do art.
That's exactly what you said to me. You're like, I'm gonna do art. And all of a sudden, you come and you're like, and you send me this and like, look what I did. I'm like, what did you do?
Look what you made me do.
I,
I said that to you, and then I posted, like, then I saw someone, I think it was like Dave, who was like, show me something you're proud of. I sent that, and he liked it. Look, Dave liked your stuff too.
but he liked your stuff.
I did it inspired by the writing, okay?
Oh my god.
So if you count.
That doesn't negate that you did the art.
Put the image in my head, I just put it on a digital format.
Yeah, which is why we need both, because it's like,
Yes.
some people aren't into reading fan fictions. I personally have like 20 fan fiction tabs open on my phone at all times. It's
Yep.
like unorganized chaos, but
You know what I have multiple tabs of and I did not think it was going to happen? I have a ton of comics on my phone.
See,
Like,
comics for me are so much harder for some reason. Like, I don't know why, but it's always been really hard for me to get into and work well with my brain. Like, I was very into Lore Olympus when it was first starting.
Yes.
And now I'm like so behind because I just can't. It's like I don't read books that way either. Like, if I get a book, I read the entire book in 4 hours and then I'm done.
Can't stop.
Yeah, like I'm very much like of a binge mentality. I don't like not being done with things or having like cliffhangers and stuff. So like, anytime a new Harry Potter book, came out when I was a kid, like if I got it for Christmas or my birthday, like that's what I was doing all day. And I wouldn't stop until I was done.
Find if you did stop that you would forget what you read before.
Sometimes, I had pretty. Now my memory is shit. When I was younger, I had pretty good memory recall. But yeah, I just can't stop. Like I'm just like, but if I just kept going, I would know what happened. So why don't I just do it? Like I'm pretty sure I read the 4th Harry Potter book like in 8 hours or something. Like it was insane.
That's impressive. I'm not gonna lie.
I was a very fast reader when I was a kid. I don't think I'm that fast anymore, but yeah, like I just sped through that. And then of course I was like, well, it just came out like a month ago, so now I have to wait 2 years until the next one comes out.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like I don't mind that, and in the same way I don't mind that, we just have the Hazbin pilot. Like I don't care if we have to wait 2 years. Like I'm gonna have a good old time doing all sorts of, OC and headcanon stuff and, enjoying the fandom and theories, until the actual thing comes out. And I love that. So I don't have any issue with waiting for, for new content, even when it's delayed like that.
The anticipation.
It is, but I'm along the same lines though, because I don't know. I understand the anticipation, but I just don't see the need for the rush. I mean, I'd rather take my time and just kind of enjoy creating and, you know, creating, what I think is this world, and just based off the one episode that we've received, which I mean, if you really think about it, you had a chock full of information and chock full of ideas and imagination in the span of a half hour. That's unreal.
Yeah.
Viv isn't, I mean, she's insane in the best way. I mean, she's a genius. For all that she did.
Absolutely.
You know what? For all that she did and all that she combined in that clump of time, it blows my mind. It's just, it's unreal.
Absolutely agree. Like she's insanely talented and insanely creative, and like I mean, obviously, like the views and the fact that it got picked up so quickly, all reflect this. But like, and I'm sure like all the years that of development that went into it too, are part of this. But like, it's an insanely good and well-rounded pilot. The amount of like information that we get about the world and the characters in the span of like 30 minutes, and like a fairly large cast of characters
Yes.
considering.
Yes.
Um, the amount of information that we get just from like the opening card sequence and you know a couple of character songs is wild, and like to be able to fit all of that like juicy information into a couple of minutes per character is insane. Like, she's insanely talented and I have incredible respect for her, and I'm absolutely sure that um that the show is going to be amazing when it does come out, but I absolutely don't mind waiting.
Oh yeah, I have nothing but all the respect in the world for her. I mean,
Yeah, I
addict.
trust her implicitly.
Oh, 100%. Which is why it kind of irks me when people are like, "Oh, well, where's more Hazbin? Where's more Hazbin? Viv, where's more Hazbin?" It's like slow your roll.
Say someone's just said in chat. They've said it does help that we have Helluva to fill that in as well, because you still get to see the aspects in
Yes.
Hell. Well, it just may not be Hazbin, but you're still getting to see the world. But different sort of standpoint.
Yeah, it's still world building, which I'm super into world building. So like the more we find out about the universe, the better. Even if there's never any real crossover between it, it's still great to get more information. And again, like I get shows that get rushed out really fast. I don't think it's a good idea, but I get it from like a capitalist production standpoint. But I really do feel like it robs a fandom of time to develop when you rush out a show and there's no time for people to like really like dig into headcanons and like build the hype. And I feel like has been, even though there are shitty people who are being awful to Viv and being like, oh, she forgot Hazbin, or oh, she doesn't care about it anymore, which is absurd. Anyway, um, like clearly it's the labor of love of her life. So like I don't know why people even slightly worry about that. But I think that the show and the fandom will be better for this time to like really sort of gestate and like get all of the headcanons and all of this like stuff out of our systems, so that when we do get new canon information, like we're even more excited about that, and there's all sorts of new stuff that we get to enjoy from fan content creators.
Yes.
Fun side of it. I think Viv enjoys seeing that sort of aspect from it too.
I think so. Like I know that she's very like kind of like politely distant from a lot of like fan stuff, but I definitely think that she is watching and keeping an eye on what kind of stuff develops, and like probably enjoys seeing that all of this come from a show and characters that she created. Like, how could you not be proud of that? Seeing people create all of this stuff because you created these characters. Like, I think that's like the ultimate um I feel like that's the ultimate flattery as like a creator when you create like original stuff, is that people like really like grasp onto it and just go with it and create all these other cool things and ideas and merch. Like, I feel like there's no higher compliment from a creator. So even if she's not like super active in the fandom, which is understandable given how shitty some of them have been to her, I feel like she absolutely like is watching and appreciating what people are doing.
Oh, absolutely.
That say that since we're talking about like original characters and stuff. What about Lottie? Can we learn a bit about Lottie?
I want
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, Lottie is I'm still just like very shocked and pleased that anybody is interested in her at all, because I really wasn't expecting it. Um but like again, like it's very flattering, and like it makes me very excited when people say that they like her design. She is probably my second oldest OC. So she wasn't created for Hazbin. She's been with me for a really long time. And she actually originates from um an original story that I was writing in like high school, middle school, high school. And she was kind of the main character in that. And that story is now totally defunct because I wrote it when I was in middle and high school, and it was kind of a hot mess. So
I feel that.
yeah, like I when I was down, I actually recently found a bunch of like old notes and stuff from that story, and some old drawings of Lottie, which I might share on Twitter at some point. She looks totally different. Um, but I found some old stuff, and it was like kind of funny to see like what characteristics of like thematically of like storytelling and the types of like genre stuff that has carried over that I'm still interested in. The story that she was from was called Ad Absurdum, and it was like a creepy carnival sort of supernatural like fantasy story. So it's funny that a lot of that has kind of carried over into current stuff that I'm doing in Hazbin.
Okay.
Consistency, yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, Lottie is from that story. She originally looked a lot different, and I mean, essentially, like her character kind of hasn't changed a ton. She didn't have any of her current backstory. That was sort of developed over the years. So like she kind of just sat defunct. And I tried putting her in other stories that I had come up with, and I tried using her in other fandoms as an OC, and like there wasn't really ever a good place that she sort of fit, so she just kind of like hung out. And whenever like I needed an OC for something, like I would toss her in, but she didn't really fit anywhere super well until I found Hazbin, and then I was like, oh wait, I think this is where she's supposed to go now.
Oh.
Now I'm scrolling through Twitter right now, and I'm looking and I'm admiring all the fan art between Lottie and Alistair, and I love it. I absolutely love their dynamic because you feel it. You absolutely feel it in every image that's there, whether it's commissioned or otherwise. I feel like I know the answer to this if I were to ask you, well, why Alistair? But um,
Why Alistair?
no, well, no, I'm not exactly like. Tell us about the relationship and the dynamic between her and Alistair.
Yeah, so the interesting thing and thing that's maybe different from a lot of like popular OCs that ship with Alistair, and just I obviously know a lot of other people who ship their OCs with Alistair. And the thing that's kind of different with Lottie is because I am not really a fic writer. I'm a collaborative writer, so I've been role playing since I was like 12.
Same here.
Yeah, like I really enjoy collaborative writing, and so
Yeah, me
all
too.
the stories that I have done with Lottie are actually role plays with various people. So she doesn't have like she doesn't have one set story. She does have a an established backstory that I have written that I use for her like on Twitter role plays, so just so people get an idea of like what her life generally was like. And so I guess you could say that that's her like canon backstory, but it kind of changes because I like to craft something from scratch, or at least heavily customize it for every person that I roleplay with. And right now I roleplay with 1, 2, 3, 4 Alistairs. And so everything that I do with them and her is a little different because all of them play their Alistair very differently from each other,
Yes.
which I love. The one that you see a lot of art of on Twitter, that probably most people are familiar with is, and certainly the one that I've fleshed out the most is a Tamlin and Janet AU. And so that's the one you probably see a lot of art of, and I write that with my partner who role plays Alistair, and we have been writing that AU since I want to say June of last year, so about a year now.
That's amazing.
Um, yeah, it's been ongoing for a while. They haven't kissed yet in that AU, and it's driving me insane. Um, it's been a very not a year has not passed in the canon of the AU, but a year has passed for me, and I'm like, can we please just make out already?
Exactly.
They can't because they won't acknowledge their emotions, either of them. Um, so not yet. But yeah, we've been writing it for a year, and it's definitely the most like in-depth AU that I have. So probably that's the easiest one to talk about since that one has the most backstory.
See, that's amazing, and I can definitely relate to that. Um, I'm sorry, I'm like just like, oh my god, she and I are so similar. It's insane. Because I've played Alistair for a
And as
handful of.
you're agreeing, I'm just like, am I being targeted right now?
What the fuck?
Yeah, and I always feel bad because people ask me like, "Oh, is there like where can I read about Lottie and Alistair?" And I'm like, I in private role plays on Discord and Tumblr and
Mm-hmm.
Dreamwidth that are not available for like public consumption, unfortunately. Um and like they don't really I was talking about this with Nami recently, like they don't really have like a set standard story, which I should work on, but I've just been too preoccupied with the Tamlin and Janet AU. um, but yeah, so I mean, and there are things that carry through between all of them. You know, like Lottie doesn't turn into a different person in all of those role plays. You know, I just tweak her backstory, which kind of affects like how much of a murderer she ended up being. You know, and it kind of depends on like when in her life she meets Alistair. But I always feel bad because like, you know, like I know Lady and like, you know, she has such an amazing story for you know, Lady G and Alistair that's like a set story and like you know, Ravenous Scorpion, Raven has like such an amazing story for like Essie and Alistair. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that, and I feel bad when people ask me what's going on with Lottie and Alistair because there isn't like a set answer, but like I really do just love collaborative writing, and I prefer it to just, you know, writing a fic. Like, mad respect for fic writers. I read a lot of fan fiction, but like I really prefer like the back and forth and like bouncing ideas with other people. Um, and so I just haven't gotten around to like making a set storyline for them yet.
I can absolutely 100% relate to that. Um, I've been a role player for several years now. I'm talking like way back when into like my high school Gaia Online days. You know what I mean?
Oh my god, Gaia Online. Yeah, I started role playing on AIM.
So did I. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep,
Yep.
the
Yep. I feel
vintage,
that.
the vintage role plays on
Oh
AIM,
fuck
where
yeah,
they had
we
the
are.
like
We're the
white
vintage role
border,
players.
the vintage role play. And like,
I mean,
yeah, like old school live journal. I know that like journal role playing isn't as popular anymore, and I didn't really actually I didn't grow up journal role playing. You know, my partner who writes Al with me, he like grew up on like old live journal and like insane journal and dream journal and all of these
yeah.
things that I have never heard of. I only got into journal role playing recently. So most of my stuff was like, oh, I met a cool person on fanfiction.net whose story I read, and we started talking in DMs, and now we role play on AOL Instant Messenger.
See, isn't that funny how you just meet people and
Yeah.
where the friendship spirals through. Um, yeah, Sky, laugh it up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is really funny. Like a lot of my best friends I met online
Mm-hmm.
or through fandom. Um one of my roommates I met role playing on Dream with. We just ended up tagging and then talking, and then we're friends online for 2 years, and then she needed a place to move into, and me and my partners happened to be moving into a place, and we were like, oh, just come live with us, like just fucking do it. And now we've lived together for like 3 years,
That's
and it's
awesome.
great. And like, yeah, and like the one of the people who plays Al for me is my friend Alicia, who I have known since I was 13, and I met on fanfiction.net because we like reviewed each other's, I don't even know, Yu Yu Hakusho fanfiction, maybe.
Oh my god!
Like old school anime shit on fanfiction.net. Like we met each other just like reviewing each other's stories and talking, and like now we have known each other this entire time, and we've like hung out in person for a long time. She lives in Southern California, and I used to live in Southern California, so we used to live really close and hang out more. But we talk like every day and have since we were 12 or 13, which is insane.
I love that. I feel like I've met some of my really good friends, on here. Sky and I met, and I consider Sky one of my best friends. And she and I met on the. You sound shocked.
I'm still gonna be an absolute shit to you though.
But that's what makes me love you. That's what.
Remind you of that next time you tell me I'm calling bullshit.
Oh, like what I do? No, I call bullshit. Bullshit.
Yeah, I'm gonna take that snippet from the YouTube video, and every time I annoy you, and then you go, "You're fucking, and but you love me."
Yeah, no, I don't remember making so many friends on fanfiction.net. Like, I know I would have people that we were comment and DM back and forth on fanfiction.net. I was more so the guy online type person. I met a lot of people from Gaia that would translate to AIM, then translate to now Discord. And there are some people that I've known for well over like 10 years. Some people, we just keep in touch. We don't necessarily roleplay anymore, but we just kind of keep in touch in each other's lives. And I mean, I think that's just kind of how some of the best relationships form.
A lot of people I don't write with anymore, but still know. And I don't even keep in touch with anybody I went to high school with, but I keep in touch with people I met in fandom longer ago than that, or at least as long ago as that I still talk to frequently, even though I've never met them in person.
No, same. I don't talk to half the people that I went to high school with.
Yeah, I don't think I think I might still have some of them on Facebook, but I don't really talk to them. But then again, like I went to high school in like at the time kind of rural Florida, and hated my entire existence there because I was a angsty little like goth girl who was into anime and all weird fandom stuff, and didn't have a lot of friends who were also into that kind of thing. So I wasn't super close with anybody in high school anyway. Most of my long-term friends I either met online or met after I got out of high school and went to college.
Just sitting here like, oh, was I supposed to keep in contact with those? Oh.
Well, like I'm the kind of person who's like, I'll look at a text and then forget about it for 2 weeks and then be like, oh, hey, yeah, blah, blah, and come back to it like as if nothing happened, which doesn't always work for some people. So like I get it, but like most of the longtime friends I've had are people who are just chill to be like, oh, we haven't talked for a month, whatever. Oh, now we're gonna talk, and it's like no time has passed.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes that's easier with online and fandom friends than it is with like real life people.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like the online friendships are definitely like more so no stress relationships because they understand what's going on with life. Like what you said, if you disappear for a month, it's like, all right, hey, you all right? Yeah, I'm okay. All right, that's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, shoot me a DM if you need anything, but like, whatever. Otherwise, it's all good. And that's just kind of the person I am. Like you can be busy with something for 2 months and then be like, hey, people come back and be like, hey, I'm so sorry, I stopped talking to you. I'm like, I don't. That could have been 2 days ago for me, for as far as my brain knows.
Yup. No, I definitely feel
Yes.
that.
Still gonna be an absolute piece of shit.
What? What did you just say?
This wholesome target friendship. I'm still gonna be a piece of shit.
Oh my god! I mean, there's a difference between being trash and then being a piece of shit. Like what? Like, what would you like to rephrase that? Because I don't think you're a piece of shit. I think you're fandom trash, just like the rest of us.
As in the words of the great Lin-Manuel Miranda, are we not all trash, the trash of the thing?
Yes.
I mean, majority of people don't know just how much of a shit I am when it comes to putting Harper in situations. So
I mean, that's what you do to your OCs. That's what they're there for. I, in my personal life, don't
Harper's
want
not
like
mine.
a
I
life
just
of
like
horrible
tormenting
angst.
Harper.
Exactly. I don't want a life of horrible angst, but I will put Lottie through unimaginable amounts of angst to like satiate my like dark fan fiction needs.
Oh, 100%. See, Harper's my OC, and Sky adopted her like the proud aunt. Like, look at my niece. Look what I'm putting her through. Look what I made her do. And I'm like, what is? That's not even shit I would put her through. What are you doing? She's like, she's my niece. I'm gonna fuck her up. I'm like, oh, okay.
Comes to situations where we're just trying to write Harper's backstory as to why she's ended up in hell. And I'm the sort of the person that's like, okay, but what do I do in this situation? What if this happened? And then this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Then this.
Oh yeah, the first roleplay that I did with
And just
Lottie and
leaves you
Al.
for process.
Yeah, like the first roleplay that I did with Lottie and Al was like, I mean, like Spanish soap opera levels of like fucking nonsense like happening to Lottie every which way. And it was so I was like, this roleplay is so good. There's so much drama.
I definitely live for drama in my role plays. It's
Yeah.
whether it's, drama that leads to romance or just insane bouts of drama. It's I don't know. I remember when you and I first started talking and I was like, yeah, no, I got Harper, but I haven't exactly found like her pairing yet. Um I still haven't. I still haven't found who
I
exactly
just keep
who
throwing all these fun situations at you, like, what if it's this one?
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Like I am a hardcore multi-shipper and like the only reason that Lottie isn't like paired with more people is just because like the second I saw Alistair, I was like, oh no, that's it. That's the one she's interested in. Like I know her. I created her. I've known her for 20 years. Like that's the one that's the trash can of a man she wants because she has terrible taste. And she's a monster fucker. So we're just ticking all the boxes. Like he's a charismatic narcissist who sings and is super charming and also a serial killer, all ticking boxes Lottie has historically been interested in. And he's a monster. And she is like an unabashed monster fucker. So I was like, that's it. There's no she doesn't need to look at she's not gonna look at anybody else. That's her trash can of her flaming garbage can of a man she's interested in.
I mean, it makes sense though. I mean, you've compiled
Knows
such
what she's
evidence.
about.
Huh?
She knows what she's about. It's terrible, but she knows it.
Listen, I love a character who knows exactly who she is. I would love for Lottie and Harper to meet. I am not gonna lie to you. I would love to see that to see that happen. What's it?
Yeah, I do want her to start interacting with more other characters in a non-romantic sense, because obviously I put a lot of time and effort just into her and Alistair's relationship. Um, but Nami and I have definitely talked about like Lottie and her OC Dante meeting, and the gist of that dynamic, which we've decided and is very funny, is just that Dante's like, "Why are you like this? Please love yourself. Why, Alistair?" And Lottie's like, I, you know, bad taste. Yeah, there was she drew a little comic that was them bitching about stuff, but we were like, Dante's just gonna be like, why don't you love yourself? And Lottie's just like, tragically, I never learned how.
No, see, I live for the whole idea of, other people's, like, the female OCs meeting to develop those strong female friendships. Because I feel like there's not enough of them. Because so many people, for the sake of drama, they go, oh, well, my OC's gonna be jealous of your OC, or your OC can be jealous of my OC, or they can play the older sister, and they can fight over the same man. I'm like, why?
Nope. Like, I've never liked a triangle, or like a like a love triangle, or like a weird like jealousy angle. I myself am poly, so I'm just like, well, but why doesn't everybody just date each other and then there's no drama?
See, I could not agree more. And Sky, you know where I'm going with this. Sky somehow. So the way I wrote Harper, and I mean Harper is she puts herself in this impossible situation where the pairing that would make sense would be her and Angel Dust. And however, we both know that he bats, for the male perspective. So which I'm down for, you know what I mean? I love that. So Sky goes, well, radio, radio does, but why doesn't Harper come join? I said, are you suggesting that she gets into a relationship with Alistair and Angel Dust? I said, are we
No,
going?
I said to you, I said if we're gonna do a radio dust take on this, could we just have Harper be like shipping the pair of them secretly together, and she's just always there because she's like, you two are so wholesome, and they're just gonna take the absolute piss out of her because she's constantly there. So like, oh no, you're constantly spying on us. We're gonna get you a blind date and put you in that situation.
Which is very funny and something they would do.
I led to the conclusion of putting Harper in a blind date with Sir Pen.
Oh yeah, that was yesterday's big before you joined us on the pre-stream yesterday. Um she and I were on this whole thing. She's like, "Well, payback." I said, "What do you mean payback?" She goes, "Well, Serpen." I said, "Serpentious." And then she and I just started constructing dialogue, and we're like, "Where the fuck did this come from?"
Sometimes it just happens like that, where you're like, oh, something's
I mean,
occurring
Harper
here.
was hiding in a bush during their blind date.
Yeah, I mean, that would probably do it.
I'm just gonna take that and be like, hey, so remember when you did this? We're gonna do this to you!
Okay, but was Harper not in that bush for the sake of Alistair being very nervous about the date with Angel Dust?
She was there for moral support and
Yes,
Alistair
she
made
was,
sure
so
that she
don't
was
have her like
okay.
she's a
But the
creeper.
same token, she was also like, I can't be spied on. But the same token, I thought the agreement was that she was gonna stay there for a moment and then go home.
Right. But then you had this Right, but then you had the spirit come in and she was getting ready to go, and then you had Alistair's spirit come and be like, no, 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 don't go. We're like, well, I'm like, what the fuck? I thought she was leaving.
Also, Shadow, you're sneaking behind Harper. Maybe, possibly gave her a second heart attack.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We've been joined now by my cat.
Aww.
Hey, do you want to talk? Do you want to say hi? Will you talk?
Yes, come chat, kitty.
Will you say hi? You're usually so mouthy. Say hi.
Have booze.
Beef! Beef, say hi. No?
Have booze.
No.
Talk to us, you skin disguise.
Say hi.
Aw.
No? Okay. You're
Apparently.
shy. You're shy.
Aww. Apparently, I have a salamander playing peekaboo with me.
Oh.
So we have salamanders that kind of pop in. You know,
I thought you were gonna
occasionally.
say you own salamanders, and I was gonna get really excited because I want us to own a lizard really badly.
No, we do not own. No, we don't own salamanders, but we have a lot of them that like scurry around the complex, and I've seen at least like 3 by our building.
About Sir Pen.
Yeah, Sir Pen's getting his looks in.
Killing minions to spy on you.
Yeah, I really want a snake too. I want a snake and lizards, but right now we just have cats and hissing cockroaches.
My coworker, she was breeding snakes before we left New York. My coworker, she was breeding them, and she would just show me all the pictures of how cute they were.
I love snakes, but one of my partners is very afraid of snakes, so sadly, we cannot have any snakes.
Aw.
So
Aw.
sad. So sad. But we
That
have
is sad, though.
plenty of cats. We have a cat that like has no bones, kind of who seems like he has no bones, kind of similar to a snake.
Okay.
So that's like he like looks like a mixture between a bobcat and a raccoon. And then he have 0 bones. So
Aw.
yeah.
Aw.
Go.
Boneless
Go.
baby.
Thank you. Yeah, a boneless baby.
Oh, your boneless baby.
Just don't recreate the outfit with him.
Don't recreate what?
Peggy's outfit with him.
Oh.
That would be very cute.
Giant hat and just a dead animal along the neck.
I could put him in a bow tie and he might kind of look like Husker.
Mmm.
He's very fluffy. So he's gray and very fluffy, so that could work. That could be his Halloween costume this year.
One of those little clip-on hats.
Aw.
Wire-frame wigs on it. Oh, it's so cute!
Yeah, I can't wait to see.
Fuck.
I think last year I didn't see anybody's pets dressed up as Hazbin characters. I just saw a lot of like Hazbin pumpkins, which we also made. We made an Alistair pumpkin.
Ooh.
We did. It was very creepy. We put red lights inside of it.
I love it. It was very creepy. I love it.
Yeah. If I did that, I'd be pressed up against the door, listening out for the kid. And if I hear any kid say, "Look, mommy, it's Alistair," I'd be like, "You're too young."
What the fuck?
I probably would have been that kid who shouldn't have been watching Hazbin, but was.
Yeah, I just like we were the kids who shouldn't have watched South Park, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I watched a bunch of stuff that I stayed up late and watched Adult Swim when I was too young to be watching anything that was on Adult Swim. But like, I also wasn't like those kind of spaces didn't really exist for a lot of the time, or at least I wasn't in them. But 2, like I also wasn't like going and interacting in adult spaces. I was just like quietly writing fan fiction or doing role plays with other kids my own age. Now everything's so accessible, like it's insane. Like back when I was a kid, like there was just like, like Gaia or Neopets or DeviantArt.
Oh my god, I remember Neopets.
Not that DeviantArt didn't have its own. Like,
oh, DeviantArt absolutely did, but I mean, now you're aging me with Neopets. My god.
Yeah, I'm not super young for this.
Oh, honey, I'm not either. I mean,
yeah.
I
don't think fandom has an age either, but like,
well,
I'm not
no,
a baby.
Oh,
I
no, no, no.
existed when Neopets. I existed when Neopets happened. I had the like original like version 1 Game Boy. Like
Same here. Yep.
most of my existence, I had a Walkman CD player and a boombox. See the
It's,
CD out every time. If you only wanted to listen to one song, you either had to buy the single or times on the CD before switching to another CD.
they will never know how easy they have it now.
No, I love making playlists, and I have
Yep.
playlists for like everybody. I have an Alistair playlist and a Lottie playlist and an Alan Lottie playlist, um, and like tons of playlists. And like that's so luxury to me now. And like, but back when we were kids, like I would have had to make a mix. CD. I would have had to burn a mix CD to do that, and it probably would have taken hours.
Do you remember LimeWire?
Always like the worry of corruption.
LimeWire.
Yes, LimeWire.
God. What do
Napster.
kids, how do like do kids know how good they have it not having to like illegally try and find stuff to download on LimeWire and like hope it wasn't a virus?
Fucking BitTorrent.
BitTorrent. Oh god, we're so old.
We are so old, it is disgusting.
We're so old. I think I still have songs on my iPod though that I originally got from LimeWire.
That's amazing. I am not gonna lie to you. That's
I'm
amazing.
pretty sure there's still stuff on there that I found from LimeWire, and I don't even know the artist or whoever did it. It's just a thing that I found randomly and downloaded, and I was like, this song is cool. And it exists 20 years later, or 15 years later, or I don't know how old I am, or how old I was when I was using LimeWire.
I was at least between like 13 to 16. I had to be.
Yeah, probably. That must have been it, because I didn't even have a computer until I was like...
What is going on now? Okay, reconnection successful. Okay.
You're reminiscing. I'm gonna BRB real quick.
Okay. Do you remember? Do you remember like Nickelodeon and Nick at Night and all
Oh my
them?
god, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
And Cartoon Network.
Oh yeah, Cartoon Network was my thing. Nickelodeon was a little bit more when I was younger. Cartoon Network was like my thing in like middle and high school, and like
Yeah.
Adult Swim and like all the anime that was on there. Yeah, that was my thing.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. The 90s Nickelodeon will always be my thing.
It was very good.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But no, I'm absolutely fascinated because I remember I saw that you sent the when you had first sent that over to me, and I mean her story itself is just so detailed, and I love it. I love that it leaves no room for like misinterpretation. And no, I love her story. That's where I'm going with that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, her story, like, so obviously, not that some people don't think Florida's the South, but like having lived there in the rural part, it's definitely the South, and so like the sort of like Southern Gothic, Midwestern Gothic, sort of like lore has always been something that I have loved and really been drawn to. And Lottie herself has always been much more of like a tragic heroine. There's not many stories I've ever written with her that have like a happy ending.
Yeah.
And so like it's nice to be able to play with her like in Hell too, after she eventually dies. But most of the stories that she's been in, have been tragic in some way or another. And so after I got into Hazbin and like Alistair was also from the South, like that was really exciting to me because I was like, well, Lottie's kind of always had sort of like Southern Gothic, appeal like worked into her story and elements into her personality. As far as like, coming from a sort of rural religious background and, being a witch and, feeling sort of separate and the kind of like repression that exists, especially in the South, You know, I've always been really drawn to that, and so that really was a great background for Lottie, and you know, her story generally sees her at odds with men fairly frequently, you know, and sort of like combining the like really antiquated like sense of womanhood from the South and like the way that like highly religious like families, you know, react really poorly to witchcraft and anything like that. You know, I really wanted to, you know, the basis for her villain backstory, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
um you know, and in the same, the part of the reason that Lottie and Alistair get along, you know, and are drawn to each other because they're both kind of like hot messes who picked a particular emotion and outlook on life to kind of like focus on as a way to like hide and work through their trauma. And you know, for Alistair it's smiling all the time, and um with Lottie it's, you know, like very much leaning into like the anger and bitterness of what was done to her when she was younger, and you know, sort of using that as, you know, the mask that she sort of hides behind, because you know, otherwise she would sort of probably just fall apart. um and so I think that part of what I like about them together is they sort of recognize that in each other, and they appreciate that each other can see that, first of all. And especially like in Lottie's case, like Lottie is very like, she's just like simmered in this anger for so long and just sort of let it fester. And Alistair is very like funny and kind of a, you know, fucking dork, and you know, very humorous and like animated and charismatic, and like that kind of brings her out of her that anger and like out of that mask to be more of like herself.
Mm-hmm.
um and so that's specifically why she's drawn to Alistair particularly, you know, because he can kind of like he takes her a little off guard in that way.
Mm-hmm.
um yeah.
So cool.
Ah, she returns.
Ah! I returned to fascinating knowledge. I'ma sit here, I'ma listen.
No, I love it, especially when the relationship is established based on the fact that, you know, they have that common ground with one another. And it seems that her and Alistair just have so much of that, you know, that common denominator to bond over. So, I mean, that just makes for a strong relationship, you know, in itself. So, yeah, well done.
You, yeah, yeah, they definitely recognize that element in each other. You know, and I always imagine as Alistair being very interested in that. um and even in like the Tamlin and Janet AU where he meets her when she's human, and like none of that has really happened to her yet. She's still in Oklahoma, she hasn't like gone to New Orleans, she hasn't become La Belle Dame Sans Merci, so she hasn't become a murderer yet. So he kind of like meets her and sort of cuts that trajectory off.
Okay.
um even in that even in that place, like, so where that's coming from is like, in that AU Alistair is pretty fresh to Hell. He's probably been there for like 10-15 years ish. um and so like he's, as we imagine it, like he's already kind of established his territory and, you know, sort of established his reputation. But he's kind of bored and feeling very like sort of bitter about like not having a lot of unfinished business from when he was alive, and like kind of missing things from when he was alive, and like wishing that he could enjoy the like position and power that he's attained in Hell, you know, back when he was a human, you know, in New Orleans, where, you know, where he grew up, and you know, the place that he loves. And Lottie is in our Tamlin and Janet AU, which I don't know if you guys know what that is. but it's like an old British folklore poem. And
So many
so
bells.
what's that?
It's ringing so many bells, and I'm ashamed as a British person. I'm not fully knowing it. I remember
Specifically like
this.
an Irish or Celtic poem. And so in the original poem, Janet is a princess and she goes out into the forest where Tamlin has taken up residence and has been like seducing women and, sort of scaring people away, exacting tolls from women to let them pass through the forest. And Janet hears about this and she basically is like, oh, there's a beautiful monster in the forest. I'm gonna go fuck it. More or less. She's like the original monster fucker. She's like, oh, I see. Let me just go and do that real quick. Um, and so she like goes into the forest to meet him, and he's like, oh, you can't be here. It's my forest. And she's like, bitch, first of all, it's my father's forest. I'm gonna do whatever I want. And second of all, you can't tell me what to do. And Tamla's like, oh, wait, I love her.
Shit.
Shit. And so she then goes back home and gets pregnant and goes back to the forest to tell Tamlin, and he's like, oh, well, what are you gonna do? And she's like, well, I'm gonna get rid of the baby because I'm not gonna be a single mother. And he's like, wait, no, I don't want you to do that. And she was like, well, my baby's gonna have a father, so either you're gonna take responsibility and marry me, or I'm not having a baby. And then it comes out that he's like a cursed human actually, and the queen of the fairies like has him under a spell, and she's gonna sacrifice him on Halloween night if Janet doesn't save him on like the Halloween parade, the Samhain parade that the fairies go on. And so Janet's like, all right, okay, I'll do it. So she like hides in the bushes, and then when they're on the parade, she like tears him down from his horse, and like in the legend, he turns into the fairy queen, like turns him into a bunch of terrible things, like a hot poker or like a beast. A lot of times it's like a lion and a hot poker, or a hot sword, or stuff like that. And the fairy spell law is that Janet can't let go of him, otherwise the fairy queen will like retain control of him. But if Janet can hold on to him while he transforms into all these terrible things, then she gets to keep him. And she in the poem, she succeeds and she keeps hold of him, and then they go off and they live happily together as a family. And so obviously we tweaked that a little bit. So Lottie is like she's still a witch, and she lives out in Oklahoma and during the Dust Bowl. And it's sort of like a semi fantasy twist in that like witches are people, and people have been they tend to get kidnapped or sold for witches because people want them to either do magic to help the crops grow or protect the towns from like the dust storms. And so Lottie's living in this town that she was abducted to, essentially, and she kind of lives out in the middle of nowhere in this cabin, and like her job, in heavy quotations, is to protect the town from dust storms and try to grow crops. But her particular brand of magic, because she's very fire oriented, she's not super great with plants or growing plants, and so the town's very angry that she's not doing her job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry,
And
I
so
had a really good image in my head.
of what?
A cornfield, and she's trying to make the harvest and all that good, and she ends up making popcorn. And then just, you've ruined our food!
Oh my god. Yeah, I mean basically that. Her magic is very like fire oriented, and it's not, she doesn't really have a green thumb. And so the town's really angry that she's not doing it, and like all she can do is kind of protect them from the dust storms, and so she's very like frustrated and lonely and, you know, kind of trapped in this little cabin where like, you know, it's the middle of the Dust Bowl in Oklahoma. Like everyone is starving to death. Everyone is like dying of like dust in their lungs, and you know, she's like trapped in this place that she didn't you know, didn't consent to be in to begin with. You know, doing this work, again in heavy quotations, for these people who don't appreciate it or her. And so she starts down this road of getting very resentful and you know, very very angry with all of the humans around her, like angry with her parents and angry with these people who stole her away. And so, and these people who like accuse her of not being able to do magic or choosing not to. And so Lottie's thing is just that, so the reason that she meets Alistair is not to help with the harvest. She literally is like, well, you know what? I'm tired of all of these people saying that I can't do anything. So I'm gonna drag a demon up from hell just to fucking say I can. And we'll see how it goes.
Nice.
I love it.
And so that's essentially it. She just wants to prove to herself that she can actually do something. And so she like creates a sigil and like calls Alistair up from hell, and like it's chance that Alistair is the one that comes. But you know, he comes and he's just like, what is happening here?
Oh.
Like he's never been to Oklahoma, he doesn't know what this is like everything just smells like death, and he's like, what's going on? And then he's like, oh, so you obviously called me here because you want me to fix this horrible place that you live in. And Lottie's like, no, not really. And he's like, what? And she's like, no. She's like, these people don't deserve to have their fucking town fixed. Like, I'm not helping them. I didn't call you for that. And that sort of like piques his interest, because he's like, there's so much I could do to fix this place. And like most people who call him up, you know, want things, and Lottie doesn't really want anything. And so Alistair's like, oh, it's a social call. Oh, we're gonna be friends. And it just kind of goes from there. Like she calls him up a couple of times, and like they just kind of like talk and eventually strike a deal, because Lottie kind of just wants to escape. And she doesn't trust Alistair at first, because she's like, well, why would I make a deal with you? Because I just literally pulled you up from hell, so I don't trust you.
Mm-hmm.
But as they eventually like see more of each other, they end up striking a bargain where if Lottie can free him from the Fairy Queen, which in our AU is Lilith, if Lottie can free him from Lilith on Halloween night, then he will take her to New Orleans and like, you know, set her up in a big house and like make her, you know, just, you know, put her in a good position. And so we've written through all of that, and so she succeeds freeing him, and that's kind of where they start to have feelings for each other is that night. And now currently in our AU, they're in New Orleans, kind of just like getting used to it. Like Alistair made them a big house in the French Quarter, and is very excited about being back where he lives. And at this point has just decided, like, Lottie's gotten to the point where she's like, well, I kind of don't want him to leave, but I'm not going to say that because that would put me in a vulnerable position of like him knowing that I want him to stay. And Alistair, on the other hand, has just decided that he's moving in.
I love it. I love everything about it.
Yeah, he's just like, oh no, I live here now. This is our house. I also live here. And basically has just been like, oh, we're married. Like, this is my wife. We're married now. We're married. You freed me like accent.
Greetings, fellow human!
That's basically what he's like. He's like inhabiting a human body right now. Humans from New Orleans, it is I, Alistair, a fellow human.
Oh, human!
Yes, I am a normal man. Don't worry about it.
Pay no attention to the stench of death upon me!
No, there's nothing. And we joke all the time that, like, we haven't gotten to this point, but, like, we joke all the time that they're just, like, the weird couple on the block that everyone's like, what do they do? Do they have jobs? And, like, sometimes Alistair just gets really, because he's like inhabiting a human body so that he can blend in, and like he can kind of be his normal form, his demon form, like in the house sometimes, but like mostly he has to kind of like appear like a human, but he's like not really human anymore. So we and where he first meets her and she says that her name is Lottie, and he's like, oh, so your name is Charlotte. And like the thing with fairies is you're not supposed to give them your name, otherwise they have power with you. And he's sort of like, the way that he deal makes is kind of the way that like fairy lore exists, especially in like in Britain and England and stuff, and so that like that's kind of how his deal making exists early on in like what he does. And so she's like, no, it's just Lottie. So like she doesn't give him her full name, and he starts calling her Charlotte anyway. And she's like, no, it's just Lottie. And he's like, oh, I see. So she kind of knows what she's doing. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's just like, probably I shouldn't give this thing anything of mine, except she does give him blood. And I haven't drawn it yet, but there's a really good scene where she gives him blood and realizes that he's like reacting to it in a certain way. And she's like, oh, you know, just like casually like showing off the fact that she's like giving him some blood in a little vial for him to like take back to hell. And he's like, gets real like, I'm a sucker for when he gets like in the comic when he like turns kind of really monstery. And so he like gets really
Finding Nemo with Bruce.
Yeah, he gets really on the wall of their actual house or the fireplace or something, and Lottie's just like, okay. Again?
I'm gonna have to doodle this later.
And he's like, when he's a deer, we headcanon that when he's a deer, like he can still think, and he's not like exactly a deer, but like his brain and his thoughts get kind of scrambled, and he doesn't exactly think like a person either. He's got all these like intense animal instincts, so like sometimes he just can't get himself out. And she's like, you're not a deer, change, put your antlers away, you're not actually a deer. And he just can't. He's like, no, but I'm a deer, I'm a creature. And she's like, no, yes, but no.
Oh, I need to see them on a moonlit walk, him and his deer form, and suddenly headlights. Alistair, move! Alistair, move!
Yeah, we joke that she takes him out on a leash when he starts to be bad, and she's like, okay, no, now you have to be on the leash. Now you can't run around on your own because...
I'm normal with my pet deer who likes to travel over your gardens.
There's nothing weird to see here. It's just a girl and her very strange-looking pet deer that's not exactly red. It's just normal. Don't worry about it. It's normal deer.
It's a very dark hue of brown, I swear. It's only in the light.
It's fine. It's fine. Don't look at it for too long.
He got into the berries. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, he likes to just eat people's flowers.
I'm sorry. He got into my hibiscus.
The roses, it's always the roses.
He'll like bring her back bouquets, but he's eaten half of it because he's a fucking deer. So he'll bring her back a bouquet and he'll be like, no, I brought you flowers. And she's like, you were eating them when you like presented them to me. Like they were in your mouth and you were chewing them.
I got the package.
Exactly. He's like, well, but they tasted good. And she's like, I did in fact ask for this.
Tasted of cherries.
Yeah, so that's just their weird dysfunctional life in New Orleans, where she's like, I guess I just have this weird creature now.
I love it. I absolutely, I know I've been saying it a lot, but I love absolutely everything about this story. I'm just like, so what happens next? How much does Alistair actually hate this?
No, he loves it. He's like living his best fucking life. He's like, I have a big house in New Orleans. I am rich in that I can make up whatever money I want. He's like, I have a beautiful murder wife who can do whatever she wants and also bosses me around, which apparently is a thing I'm into. And we just get to live in New Orleans. I don't have to live in hell. I get to live in the place where I always wanted to be super powerful, and I get to be a weird creature like deer.
I've got the power of respect.
And he's, I have the power of respect I've always wanted. Meanwhile, he's like fucking like cooking breakfast for his wife in an apron and then like running around town as a deer. And Lottie's like, I think maybe you're just weird.
Oh, you're only just noticing.
That's the thing that works really well about them is like she's not scared of him because she's not really scared of most people, first of all. But second of all, she just like she takes one look at him and is like, oh no, you're just a weird dude.
I believe
You're
the
just a
term in hell is
weird
I'm
man.
fucked up.
She's like, well, you're that too, but you're also just, before you were a weird fucked up murderer, you were just a weird man. She's like, oh no, you're just weird. You're also a murderer and a cannibal, and that's something. But you're just weird. You're just dorky and in need of an audience at all times. And Alistair's like, Alistair's like, I've been seen.
I have been viewed by many.
Yeah, I feel like Alistair's thing is like, he obviously has like this persona, this like this way that he projects himself, and like I feel like his thing is like he's probably scared and or very reluctant to be perceived. He is. Yeah. And Lottie's just like, oh no, I'm not scared of you. You're just a weird man who happens to eat people, which is not the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
You have to give me that image in my head now. He's just squid someone on his antlers in his deer form. I brought home dinner!
Yeah, that probably has happened. And she's like, no.
Oh, big go food shopping. I brought you back a full 5-course meal, my dear.
Like, Lottie's just like, it's dripping on my carpet. There's blood, it's everywhere. Like,
That's character.
It's dripping on my carpet, Alistair.
It adds character.
I was like, no, we're not gonna be able to have people over. The thing is that, like, they, like, are like this, but, like, Alistair could just fix everything with magic, and Lottie can do a lot of stuff with magic, too. So it's just, like, they've, like, morphed into this weird domestic life, and, like, their problems are that Alistair is sometimes a weird deer and, like, brings home dead people and or flowers that he's half eaten because he's a weird deer.
I brought you home dinner and flowers. I'm a good husband.
I think the other thing that's different than a lot of ships that I've seen with them is that Lottie's definitely the dominant one in their relationship, and like Alistair's very like obviously Alistair is way more powerful than her. But I feel like for him there's like this like relief in being able to like relinquish control to someone he trusts and cares about, who he knows also cares about him. And like especially in the bedroom, like Lottie's kind of the one in charge, which works for her too because she has a lot of trauma around that and like doesn't really like to not be in control. So like that works very well for them. And like not every Alistair that I roleplay with follows that exact same dynamic, but like a lot of the time Alistair really enjoys like being able to like, and I think I see this a lot with like Radio Dust dynamics too, where he really enjoys being able to like trust someone to be in control of him. And so that's kind of how they are, which I feel like is different from a lot of the like other OC ships that I see with him, that I really enjoy writing about them too, because I feel like sometimes that dynamic gets missed.
No, you're right though, and I feel it's the little things in those dynamics. I mean, well, I take that back because those aren't necessarily little things. Those are actually pretty big ones. Just the trust and relinquishing control. Shut up, Sky.
I can't help it. You're talking about this shit, and my mind's immediately just, yeah, I know exactly what Harper's is.
at this point you know her better than I do, and I fucking wrote her. Holy shit.
Yeah, you have a fucking existential crisis.
He scared the shit out of her.
Allowed to. That's his job. He doesn't always mean to. It's instinct.
The girl's damn near pissing herself in the parlor. Nifty looks like she's gonna fucking shank her. And then this fucking Alistair coming out of the woodwork. I'm surprised she didn't piss herself.
He was just admiring from afar. He likes to be punctual.
Yeah, alright, really admiring from afar, okay.
Because he was in the shadows, if you remember rightly.
Oh no, I remember damn well correctly. That's exactly what scared the shit out of her.
God. Yeah, I feel like they should meet at some point because that would be very funny.
Well, so Harper's thing was, alright, so in Harper, because I am currently, you know, I'm working on Harper's backstory, but I feel like the people that I roleplay her with, you know, she takes on, her personality, it's very interesting. I don't know if you noticed it with Lottie, but the personality kind of tweaks with every roleplay. Like there's always a different facet of the character that's being portrayed, and I think it definitely depends on who she's playing opposite against.
Absolutely.
Right? So there are some role plays where Harper will be more, you know, she'll be the more dominant of you know, of the two. And then there are times where she knows to relinquish that and to give them the control because she knows at that point, you know, it would be so.
Yeah, and there are definitely instances like that where Lottie is not the dominant one, and in those it's just, I mean, obviously, again, it depends on what's happened exactly in her backstory and like how traumatized she is, you know, and when Alistair meets her. But if he meets her before she's really gotten super far down that path, you know, she's a lot like younger and more naive and like a little less like jaded and bitter, and so like there's a little more give and take where she has the ability to like trust that, and there's a little more of a like, not exactly into like the character dynamics, but there's a little more of a like Dracula Mina or, you know, Phantom Christine sort of like twist on their relationship than there would be normally.
No, absolutely. And it's funny you say that because I was just listening to the soundtrack of Phantom last night, and I definitely see it. Listen, I don't know.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, I used to be, when I was like in high school, I was like obsessed with Phantom of the Opera, so there's a lot of that like sort of leftovers of that dynamic in a lot of the things that I write.
Oh, definitely, and I see that a lot too with people who are fans of Phantom, people that were fans of Jane Austen. They do a lot of Pride and Prejudice in there. You know, Sense and Sensibility. You know, dynamics like that, and yeah, I don't know what it was, but something came to mind when I was listening to The Point of No Return. And the more you're talking about that, the more I see it. The more I see it for Alistair and Lottie, and I'm just like, holy shit. So as soon as you said that, I was like, oh.
Would definitely be their song. Like Lottie is very like susceptible to corruption, whether that be from like an outside source or, you know, her own internal like demons and struggles. And like I said, like Alistair, like I knew that he would be the one she liked because she does have like a tendency to be attracted to like charismatic narcissists and like men who are manipulative and like, you know, very intelligent. You know, that's kind of her like her fatal flaw is she's always she always has kind of been attracted to like that sort of person. So yeah, so that's definitely like she's very corruptible, and not in the way that like she's innocent and like corrupted, but like it's very easy to like it's very easy to like swing her in a dark direction because she is really susceptible to like darker thoughts and darker like ways of life. Like she, you know, like she becomes a murderer for very different reasons than Alistair, I imagine, but like,
oh
you
yeah,
know, Well, a lot of people don't just become serial killers because they had shit happen to them. So,
There's definitely
that's definitely something.
they're definitely provoked and they're pushed in that direction. Harper, I don't think Harper's got a good taste in men either. Her, she doesn't.
I feel like everyone in hell is kind of like in that same boat. It's like, oh, maybe our taste is terrible.
Probably is. Not gonna lie, it probably is.
Yeah, and I mean, I like that. I think that's the really interesting thing about Hazbin is that you get to explore that kind of like, the darker side of like what people are interested in and like, how far people will go for, you know, their desires or goals, whether that be love or a person or, prominence or,
Right.
power, anything like that. I think that's the really interesting thing about the fact that everybody is in hell is you get to play with those vices.
Oh, definitely. It took me a while to figure out what Harper's was per se, because I'm like, all right, well, I know Vivzie had a lot of ideas as to like what, you know, brought you into hell and what didn't. So I'm like, all right, well, technically she's a sex worker by the end of her story. So I'm like, that wouldn't necessarily gate her into hell. So I think hers was greed. I think greed was one of the ones that was, and I was like, all right, you know what? Maybe I should follow along the lines of like the seven deadly sins, right? So I know by the end of the story, jealousy and greed really, take the reins on her. So
Yeah, and I love that in any OC story. Like, I want to know what their sin is. Like, what's the reason that they got themselves like into
mm-hmm.
this position? And like, it's very interesting that Harper's is greed, and like Lottie's is obviously wrath. Like, she's that's her the thing that sort of took her down the path of no return. Was that, and I always anytime I see an OC, I'm like, but I want to know why they're here specifically and how they feel about that.
Well, that's one of the first things I look to answer is the why. Like, what is her why? Why is she in hell? And for a while, it took me a while to figure that out, because she does die from overdosing. She overdoses, and I did that. So I had drinking and drugs be part of a different book that I wrote, and because Harper also she was written for a different story and wound up falling into the Hazbin realm, and she just wound up fitting there. So I was writing a Hazbin edition of that story, and what's it for her to what so to be writing her and down spiraling into that path. It was definitely a twist I didn't expect.
And I like that about characters too, where it's sort of like as you write them, they sort of like make their own decisions about what's happening with them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that's one of the most fun things about having OCs and like playing with them, especially in an established universe, is they get to make decisions and you don't have to do all of the world building.
Exactly. Exactly. I love everything about that. Um, I know we discussed the 2 p.m. the 2 p.m., which actually works out very well. So if there are no further questions or any further comments, lastly from myself, Sky, or Songstress herself, um, I'll take a moment or so to kind of wrap that up. So does anybody have anything they wanted to add, comment, hot questions, comments, concerns before we before we wrap up?
Nope. I
I
love you
totally
guys. Thank
did
you.
just send a copy over of Harper's story.
Oh yeah,
Well,
I got that, and I'm very excited to read that. That's
I
very
didn't do
cool.
it, I swear.
well,
Yeah.
no, well, Sky, thank you for that songstress. I really hope you enjoy it. I actually do want to sit down and finish it, because I do incorporate Alistair there in a different light. So I hope you appreciate that. Um,
I do, yeah, and I love reading. Like, I love Alistair, and like I'm a multi shipper. Like, I'm not weird about reading him with other people, and I really love seeing everyone's different takes on him. For me, like shipping and fan work, regardless, is all just about character dynamics. So I really
oh
just
yeah,
love seeing a character I love in all sorts of different situations. So that's awesome.
Oh no, 100%. Because I'm still undecided. Well, Sky and I have definitely had full blown discussions. Because I'm like, all right, well, where do I want to take this next? She's like, oh, well, what if you did this? And you know what she was suggesting really made a lot of sense. So it actually wound up working away from Husker so much, who I felt deserved more love. But it wound up straying from him so much because I know that his character itself has a blockade. So I said, all right, I don't see her breaking that. Um, So I know that it was shifting in the direction of Alistair, but I'm not terribly sure. There was more so of a deal being made between the two of them.
Right.
And you'll see it. I'm not that far into it yet, but those are that is the intent. But definitely I'm sure we'll talk about it more. But no, Songstress, we love you. We loved having you today. We would definitely love to invite you again in a future stream if you'd be interested.
Absolutely. I loved being here with you guys. I fucking love talking about Hazbin and character building and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, please do invite me back. But it was really great to be here with you guys, and I really appreciate you having me on.
No, absolutely.
Love you.
Yes, love you. And yeah, look, I'm sure we'll talk about more about character building and world building in a separate conversation. So I definitely look forward to that. And Harper and Lottie meeting. That should be fun.
Yeah.
Um, but everyone, thank you. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us again for another edition of Helluva Hazbeans. Definitely stay tuned, stay safe. Love you all, and we will talk soon. Have a good one, guys.